Welcome back to the NLC. It's the desk, and look at it. It is perfect as it is.
Wow.
They won't change anything.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I think everybody heard the wow, wow, wow.
That's meant to be for us. You were never meant to hear that.
Yeah, we are weird people. But first game of the day, Riddle versus Dusty. This could be one of the big ones this week.
Okay, and bringing back a level of seriousness, which is very hard for us, but
Yes.
this is such a great game to start today out with. We were talking about, oh, wow, these teams at 7 wins are not safe. They're not solid at this point. They can obviously lose a fair amount of their last few games, and there's a good chance they can get caught up to. Now, we have 2 of those teams facing off in the first match, and if one of these slips up enough, they lose this, that chains into a couple of other losses, that's capitulation for them. There's a lot of ways they can get caught up to.
That's a great word, 1. And 2, these 2 guys are like tied with each other. They're both on 7 wins, which means if you win today, you pull out of that group of the 7 victories and you move into your own safe pillow. And I think a lot of these teams, especially because the 4-win teams are chasing them, they do want to be starting to run away. Because if you make the gap between you and then the second group of teams a 4-game gap, and you only have 4 games remaining after today, it's going to be really hard for them to reach you.
And one last point in the standings. Basically, all of these 7 teams won yesterday as well. They're
Yes.
they all coming off the back of victory as well.
Monday.
So, okay, so actually,
always do this.
You know how there's object permanence, where something which you don't see just stops existing? That's basically me with the rest of things which aren't NLC. I'm actually only existing while the broadcast is live. So it was yesterday for me.
He's living here, by the
Yeah,
way. I know
that's
you guys
me,
don't
yeah.
know
He
that,
lives
but
here.
he lives here, underneath the desk.
It's
by the
really
way.
freaky on Premier League days.
It is.
Right. I'm pulling us back before Champ Select. We talked a lot, well, I talked a lot about Dusty.
Yes, that's exactly what I
It's
want
time
to
to
ask.
talk about Riddle as well.
Exactly.
So the problem with Riddle is that even though they're pulling up victories, it's like, how do they do it? Because they look
Hero plays.
extremely inconsistent. Sometimes the early game is inconsistent, sometimes the mid game is inconsistent, sometimes their late game is inconsistent. And they don't necessarily have one player where we're like, okay, they're gonna pop off, they're gonna pop off, they're gonna pop off. No, every single time, someone on Riddle has to push above and beyond to carry that particular game. This is why even though Riddle is on the upper bracket of the teams that are tied at 7 wins, it's just so difficult for me to put my finger on them and be like, oh yeah, this is why they win games. No, like somebody, yes, absolutely pops off, but I think it comes more to like skill discrepancy at that point more than teamwork.
And the last time was MC, right, in terms of the singularity that was
And then
2 games
Fatichan on Monday, yeah.
and Fatichan on Monday. But then you look at these hero plays, they have to pull out. And you start asking questions about, oh, come on, you're making your job a little bit difficult here. So I am still waiting for this team to consistently have all of their members performing at the same time, because I genuinely believe they can be I reckon they could even be a top 2 team, actually, if all of them are performing at once. I think it would be a difficult battle. I think they need to catch one of X7 or XL sleeping. But I think that's the caliber, I think, that they have. It's just a question of, can they pull it out game after game? And they currently haven't done that. And Dusty are the team that are doing that right now.
I have one thing, if I may, which is really weird, but I think it fits the scenario, which is
It fits the
Riddle
general world with.
needs to pull a Dusty move, where the team finally is able to play together and every single line is going to appear. So they're fighting the team that they need to become in order to win, which is really weird.
It's very poetic.
It's
Kinda
very poetic,
interesting.
but it also makes sense because we mentioned how Venza and FTG have stepped up, but we've also seen Fatichan step up massively. So it's going to be like a carry versus carry situation where we could potentially see Jinx out of the picture, we could potentially see a Phyllis out of the picture, just so these 2 guys do not get a hyper carry that is S tier right now in their hands.
And I think both junglers are really important on this game. Specifically, obviously, if Nidalee goes through, something would happen on the studio.
We're working on NLC like
There
literacy,
is no,
right? Yeah.
there is no way.
There's no way,
It's
obviously.
been tried once. It failed from Ricky. Never again.
But the idea is MC needs another jungle where you're like, okay, he's on this jungle. He's like on this Rex side of Viking, which is really weird because both junglers will fight it off.
I mean, MC
Needs
had
to
that
pull
Lee
it
Sin
off.
game.
I was about to say, so I think when we go to like the non-AP champions, right? Because there's still Diana right there. He picked it last time. He was pretty good on it. AP junglers are his bread and butter, right? Rumble is just not that relevant anymore, even though with the removal of Sterax, we could potentially see some shenanigans.
Also,
then
he's also getting a buff next patch and some base arms.
exactly, but then we move on to MC's territory, which is the hard farming junglers, such as Graves. He just really likes playing this champion. It kind of works like an AD needly as well. You just blow someone up, especially as you go towards lethality, but also his leasing is something to be feared of. Now, I can't necessarily think of any other champions where I'm like, ooh, MC, lethal on that champion. So it is a very small pool. And maybe this is one of the reasons why Riddle have not been able to be, consistent, because you're missing that, heavy, hard tank in your jungle.
We still have a few minutes before we go into the champion select. And
NLC podcast, let's go.
Oh, I'm fine with that. What about the top lane? What is our take on the top lane? Obviously, nowadays, people go whole breaking and are really happy because they don't have to do anything at all. But what about these specific players?
On Monday.
I
got it. we were we were really talking about how ALF has really stepped up on the likes of the Gragas. There are a number of players which have had to do that, but having this again, because I know you're talking about certain roles on certain teams need to be filled, right? So like engaging supports, the supports are just used to shot calling their engages. Hard farming junglers, it helps the way that they path and play around their lanes. In terms of the top lane, having the ability to also not just be kind of like on the Camille, which can sometimes be a little bit different. When we had, Aleph playing towards the Ornn and it not quite working, the Gragas has filled in the cracks quite nicely, where you can be, and the Aatrox in another way, because you're disruptive, you're tanky, you survive on your own regardless of what your jungler is doing to you, and you have a lot of your own individual agency to play and make through the game. I think that the Gragas and the Aatrox are both great picks for the side of Dusty's top. The question is, what is Kex going to bring out on the other side? Because he had that one monstrous Renekton game, then had the less good Renekton game against Patoshkas on the GP. It's been a bit flip-floppy on that side too.
So the light is not going to be on the top, it's going to be probably on the jungle and the bot side. The mid lane, though, is there a face-off where...
Just to cover things up.
Yeah, I want to go on every single lane before
I basically think that mid lane right now is just the most irrelevant lane there is in the game. When in terms of like fun, when you want to watch fun, interactive League of Legends and you've got Orianna.
Let me introduce you to a champion of...
What is that?
It's a Ludens building champion called Ari. It's lesser seen in this
The one that
region.
beats Putrefier?
Only when you really want to hurt my feelings.
Interestingly enough, I was talking with you about this on the green room, where we saw a lot of Ari today on LCK, and it was Everfrost, Everfrost, Everfrost.
I mean, that's effectively...
Are you wrong, or are they
No,
wrong?
it's just people think, oh, I have other champions that do damage. I have to stun people in place. Just hit your charms. It's fine. Do it. Do more damage. Fury figured that out, Monday. Other days.
Monday.
Yeah, look, it's a hard time for me. But yeah, I mean...
Mary's sticking around, yeah.
Just wait for the casters not to be saying yes to
But to bring it back to the overall point in terms of like, is mid lane a boring role right now? It has often been the case where jungle and support do all of the early game shenanigans. They're the ones that baton pass over to your solo laners and go, sweet, you can team fight now on a Victor or a Corki for most of this season. Now, there are some picks which showed a little bit more interest. We've seen a bit of Syndra. Silas is almost there. Just one more buff and he's probably there. But you've got a couple of champions which are a bit more playmaking ready. And if you're an M&S, it doesn't really apply to you, right? But most of the global leagues are finding that mid laners, their duty is team fighting. Outside of that, you're on your own.
Now, before we go into the champion select, I would like to take a peek at this because we have trouble, so it makes sense. Looking into champions that could be removed on the ban. Are they going for the stable bans, or are they going for the Rel, taking away the Rek'Sai, taking away the Nidalee, obviously? And is there any specific champion that is going to appear today that is not supposed to? And I'm looking into like your keen mind.
I'm thinking ADCs here are going to be targeted. I think Venza and Fatichan have been core members of all the shenanigans, and they have been the hard carries. I think if anyone has showed up from Riddle the most, it has been Fatichan in the bot lane, and I think equally Venza on the other side. So maybe you want to ban one of the two, maybe first pick the other. We've seen a lot of B1 jinxes as well.
Well, that's the thing, because now you've got 2 bans left, and there were 3 high priority AD carries left in the Zeri, the Jinx, and the Aphelios. So Riddle would rather handshake on the 2 remaining hyper carries, because they knew they were going to get one of them. So if they ban away one of the AD carries, then obviously Dusty, they're going, well, we have to leave both up now, otherwise we're not going to have a premier team fighting AD carry. They have to ban away something different.
Exactly. Now the thing is, you've left Diana open, which we said is the secondary most dangerous champion in the hands of MC right after Nidalee right now, but you've also left Venza's Aphelios open. So you can choose to take that one and then possibly handshake, like Namera said, with the Jinx.
And also leaving the realm
Oh,
open.
or take the Jinx yourself.
you take the
Interesting.
Jinx.
Interesting.
But the thing with something like a Jinx is that Jinx allows you to play different kinds of supports to Aphelios too, because Jinx does the wave control, which Aphelios doesn't really do at level 1, at least, because your AoE rockets tend to wave clear in a way that allows you to take control of the lane. Even though you lose out an early lane versus something like Aphelios Thresh. Thresh is already gone, you pick the Jinx, you get wave control early, allows you to play something like the Hecarim to hard farm a little more.
I prefer this than the Rek'Sai because you're capable of not only getting the early game, but also help on the late game and not be as
Also,
squishy as you are.
let me remind you,
Tell me.
FGG played Rel,
Yeah.
Viking played Hecarim
It's a
on the
duo.
previous game versus
horses of the
Astralis.
apocalypse.
You saw it was the 4-man Fear into the 4-man Rel ult. It was absolute disaster for Astralis last time they played against this. And if I was Dusty right here, you could potentially even lock in the Rel at this point and just make it a very fearful duo.
I hate blind picking Rel. Blind picking Rel is so rough.
know
I mean,
you
the thing is though, I think you should first round ban.
Everyone is just so short range.
But the problem is, if you then have to play into something which really hard counters you, I mean, I know that there are different opinions on stuff like Alistar, because you can kind of chain him out of his combo too, but there are a lot of things which can punish a Rel, because Rel is actually not that tanky for a support.
But you know who doesn't care? FGG, because she's never in lane.
That's very true. Well, there you go. I guess
you
FGG
go.
doesn't...
Because he's never in
Makes a
lane.
lot of sense. When Rel was like prominent on the bot lane, one of the counters that people were talking about was the Janna. You can actually EQ the jump. And Janna is better nowadays, so that could be something for the bot lane?
Maybe, but right here I'm looking at top lane because I know MC is rocking the Diana in the jungle. You need to ban Tryndamere here. Graves does suffer a lot into Tryndamere. It's one of these champions that is really difficult. There's of course some little other gems that I've heard can work versus the Graves as well, but he really does suffer into the Tryndamere, so I would be really surprised to not see it banned out here. Even though Aelif has not necessarily played the Tryndamere, he does turn to default into more like Aatrox, Gragas picks. If you do want to play towards that, it's open.
I mean,
it's available.
Camille's still fine in something like Graves, depending on if you want to play towards that. Obviously, Aleph was playing more towards tanky facilitator. We talked about the Aatrox, talked about the Gragas, and Gragas would still actually be fine here, because you wave clear, you disengage from trades well. You're never going to get the push because it's Graves, but you can still play something like that, which is more than fine, really. I'm more interested in seeing what the perceived support counterpick is from Riddle, because they've managed to now ban out that Janna, which is one of them. If you do lock in something like a Leona, you still can't cancel the jump, so it's just engage versus engage, who's hitting yourself harder. And we're really waiting to see, you know, what you're going to pair up with that Aphelios to try and get yourself some 2v2 kill pressure, because you know that the Rel can go for those options.
Yeah.
Mir is available. They didn't pick
And-
it. Tell me.
And because you have picked the Graves now, there is no blind pick for Dusty. They can pick the top laner here because the top laner has been locked in for the sort of Riddle. Gnar is a matchup that does pretty okay into the Graves. You don't fear being killed by Graves, and you actually do have kill pressure if the Graves does stray away from the Hull Breaker and the Gnar does go for it. You actually have kill pressure under the Graves. So I think it's a pretty even matchup right there. I don't think Aelif will have any problem. Plus, you have one more layer of protection for your Jinx.
See, as an LGL enjoyer, I see myself a lot of Gnar effectively all the time whenever they play. They just don't care if the champion's good or not. But it's actually pretty good right now anyway.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of Hullbreaker, Trinity Force after the change is really good on that champion. You have an ability to play on weak or strong side depending on whatever your draft really needs. It kind of feels like a bit of a lukewarm pick in some ways. Like, you're not the best strong side, you're not the best weak side, but you can do both.
Favorite. It's going to be one cancelling each other's combo.
But then the problem is, now you've got Graves getting flexed around potentially, Aurelia potentially getting flexed around too if you want to put that Graves into mid lane, and Aurelia versus Gnar, that is not a good matchup.
What I'm seeing right here is a Riddle that is extremely short range. And if this Nico gets locked in here, I'm going to lose my ish, but Veigar would be also...
Perfect.
Very short
because
range.
You have,
Yep,
you
that's
have
a killer.
1, 2, 3 melees. Graves, who's extremely short range. Aphelios, too, with the wrong guns, can be extremely short range as well. And then you have a Jinx that can literally hit you with rockets from her fountain. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 protectors around the Jinx. I think Dusty have come up with a really well-rounded draft where you've got engage, disengage, room to breathe for your Jinx. It would be a surprise for me to see Riddle somehow reach Venza, unless Venza pulls up one of his assassin emblem
It has to be all inside lanes for Riddle in my eye of things. I look at there is some 2v2 potential on the bot side.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the Aurelia versus the Gnar in lane, but if the map gets opened up because of early Herald plays, there's a chance that side lanes get wacky. I think that's Riddle's way into the game. It's hard to pull off though.
There's not 2v2, remember? FTG is never in lane.
Very true.
There you go. If you don't build Mercury Threads, I don't know what you're doing, but the CC is amazing on the side of Dusty, and Riddle needs this victory. But we need to pass it over to the casters who are waiting for the first game. It's on to you, Initialize and Goldberg.
What a pleasure to have Silk Arkarom here in the studio. I'm a Borg. Dangerous man, that
Welcome,
host.
Initial Ace.
I know. Here we go. Glad to be here for this game, and some interesting drafts there. Slowkey gets back onto the Aurelia, did pretty well on the last week, but then I'm looking at the other side. Hecarim Rel again for Viking and FGG, and we were having a conversation about comps.
I'm nervous for Archerum's prediction already with Riddle in the driving force now. I don't think it's because they don't have any win conditions with the side of Riddle's draft, but I think it becomes very slim for them to find that window if they fall behind with their composition. Reason for that is that they don't do too well into the disengage that coming up from the side of Dusty. I think that was a very intelligent Vega R5 with all the short range that the desk was mentioning as well. They're just going to be having a lot of issues moving into the champions of the side of Dusty, and Jinx is just going to have so much peel for her at the same time. So if you don't find a leverage or a way to get ahead in the early game from the side of Riddle, I think the team fights will just go over to the side of Dusty. So we need to see a proactive Riddle in the early game.
I completely agree. If you want to find a way to split divers apart, throw down a baby cage and watch them all get split up. You've got the Rel, you've got the Hecarim for the counter engage, and makes things a bit difficult. What they might not be expecting though is this level 1 invade onto Viking, who does manage to get out before anything further comes through. Ward put it down on red buff, but no further action comes through here at the level 1.
It is not the worst shot going for it. You don't have the best level 1, but invading a Hecarim with only a ghost, 1 flash cube from Nukes, where Viking is not expecting a Rage to come out, could be a first blood going over to the side of Riddle. That will not be the case. They will be exchanging vision. That means they get the priority of where Riddle is currently starting with their jungler, MC on the red buff. As you can currently see in the inventory as well, no sweeper from either jungler, which means that we don't get that level or early level or that early XP going over to the side of any of the solo laners.
That is just cruel. He's going to try and mind game Aleph, thinking he's not going to be in the tri-bush. He's going to come this way to try and be safe, and it's not going to be safe because there is the Graves. We've got a couple nice autos off, but actually the trade back makes that a bit more even than I feared. I thought with the blind bush invade, that would be a bit tougher, but he will zone Aleph off this wave at least a little bit right now. He's going to keep autoing, and Kex with the reload off the quick draw, going to force out the pot early here.
Great level 1 there from the side of Kex, knowing that the Hecarim doesn't really have the tools to come and gank him immediately. And that gives you the control of the lane as well. Obviously, Aleb does have that grasp with the Undying. Getting to proc that will get you some sustain back into the lane, but Kex, with his own fleet footwork, is sitting in a comfortable position. In this mid lane matchup as well, level 1 with a range into Aurelia, they usually do better. But as soon as Aurelia hit that level 2, as soon as you get that flawless duet, that's where you need to have the right clicks as the range mage in this one. Because if you get caught off guard outside of turret range, that's going to be a lot of damage piling down on you. So actually in the early game, especially when Vega's cooldowns are so long with these spells, it's actually a mid lane that's got priority on the side of Slowq.
Yeah, and I did want to call out a little thing I saw there from Backland, who did at least pulled off a quite cool little thing where he was dark mattering the minions to see whether Ellie would dash back into them, kind of force her to think about where she was using her Qs. A little ironic considering the name of the player playing Aurelia as MC.
It's early.
Yeah, it is early, and there was a bit of ward over the wall there, so they'll know it's happening. There's the level 3, might make this a bit harder. They're going to go for the dive anyway. Pale Cascade comes down, there's the hopper Kex.
Oh no.
Kind of reads it, takes a lot of damage. They do pull it off though. Nicely juggled, even if that got a touch close.
It looked messy. It looked like Kex was going to fall to that turret, and MC, intelligent jungle pathing here. He skips out on the blue buff and the Grump and just goes up towards the top side immediately because Kex has communicated that he was crashing a wave. Down towards the bot side, that's where Viking has been pathing, but going for a dive on an Alistar in the early game, despite Venser stacking up a wave, pushing into them, I just don't think it's going to be the case.
And you can see as well, Fadachan, I think, had a fair amount of ammo on Severum, the red gun as well. You dive when you don't get the kill. He just heals straight back up and runs away with the onslaught speed up, and that gets pretty tough to boot as well. And I'm kind of throwing back to a game versus Astralis that Dusty had, where Kex got the early attention from MC and turned into the most monstrous of crocodiles I have ever seen.
Oh yeah, for sure. That was Kex that was supposed to just try and at least be weak-sided against by the set back then. This time around, he's taking the charge into the Gnar, but it's still going to be difficult coming ahead in this one. It is a ranged matchup, and you are taking control of the lane, which is something you want to play towards. If you can get a crash on the minion wave, force the Gnar to slow push into you. If we take a look at the laning phase earlier, that might be a good scenario for you. But you need to time it with your jungler. Going for that solo kill can be very difficult. So Kex right now is in a decent position. There's 4 minions or 3 minions right now from the side of Aleph, one of them being a cannon. And a lot of Aleph's tools right now to CS is AoE tools, which means when he's going for a lot of these minion waves, he quite often will make the next one even lower. Because of this, it can be difficult for him to not stack the minion wave against it, but this time around, he's managed to do it fine. You can see there's 5 ranged in the backline right now from the side of Kex, which means that automatically a slow push will come towards Aleph.
Gonna be something to keep our eyes on. Minion management, always one of those little bit more esoteric things I always struggle to keep track of. So it's always nice to have someone who knows what they're talking about to lead me through it all.
Oh, don't worry, you know what you're talking about.
Mostly. The rest of it, I can fake it. There you go.
Well,
behind the scenes look.
Secret's being exposed right now. Initialized doesn't actually know what he's talking about. Leaked on broadcast by himself. Am I reading that correct?
I just couldn't live with the guilt anymore, Goldborg.
Oh.
I just had to admit it.
Okay, fake it till you make it.
MC going to take this opportunity as well with where pathing is at to get onto this early dragon. And though Viking is around, I don't know whether he's going to be here quite in time. He'll just pop the ward over the wall and leave it to go down.
Small thing I actually appreciate right now from the side of MC is that he didn't actually go for an instant alternator buy on the Diana. That is actually not very cost efficient on junglers. So going for something like a Blasting One with an amplifying tone or a Darksteel if you know you're going to try and snowball yourself is actually way more efficient. And as it gives you more AP, clearing out the jungle camps yourself, puts you on a better timer with your tempo, and all in all, just more damage when you start brawling. Now, Viking is coming around, does have smite himself. MC does not any longer, but Scuttle will go over to him.
Yeah, didn't feel safe enough, and with Scuttlecrab pathing away from the horse made things a bit difficult, as he did actually look for a potential gank in the bot side and trade, but can't make it happen, has to back away, and Viking not really managed to make things land so far in this early game. But that's not necessarily the worst thing. It's about 500 or so gold that Riddle are ahead. But I feel that potentially that's necessary considering how difficult it could be if it does devolve into 5v5s around objectives.
Yes, so if I were to predict what would happen next is the fact that MC, his bot side camps are no longer up, but you want to move up towards the top side. You want to start attacking here.
No, my days, just gets to transform in time, and now Kex is in trouble, and he's solo killed in turn.
That is not good coming out from Kex there. Did not respect Dinaba from Aleph, and just like that, get walloped into the wall, stunned up, and taken down by a boulder. Kex, he came in with the early momentum, the early kill. I was about to say that MC should be pathing up towards the top side to try and attack Aleph once again. And now MC is here, should be a kill, but Kex gone down. Definitely not what you wanted.
See whether MC can make his way in. There's a hop towards the wall, but it's a flash for the Moonfall. He's over the wall instead, and actually Aleph is going to get out of here. He gets a kill onto that the Graves, the top side. He sticks in between a wall and the Nard place, and then gets away from the Diana afterwards. Just beautiful stuff from Aleph.
Yeah, brilliant. And if we could have a look at the wave state from top side as well, I just wanted to see what he's actually recalling on, because, yeah, as you can see, it's just going to be Kex trying to push this one in immediately. Aleph had a crash. He was going to go and recall. He was afraid the wave was going to stack and then slow push into him, so therefore Kex wanted to break that immediately. Crashes on this one, and now can just get some plating for himself.
And a surprise to no one who's been watching the NLC, FGG is not in lane and was hanging around mid with Viking to see whether there was a play to be made. Is still hanging around mid lane, and Venz has actually come up to join. And of course, Herald has just spawned, so that's probably what they're looking for, is priority in mid. They're moving up towards that objective spawn. Kex is here though, and has got flash available, so maybe you can think about playing around this, but I feel like Riddle just aren't in the position right now.
They are not. They have decided to play for the bot side of the map. You can even see MC's hovering there, but now you have a new point of attack that you can go for. So there's plating for the side of Fatichan, but there's also the fact that Dusty's camps have just respawned. So now you either try and defend that, or you just say, all right, let's handshake it. We know your blue side is spawning in less than 1 minute. We'll start pathing towards a vertical part of the map instead. But looks like with the bot lane of Dusty back, it is just going to be the blue buff taken away, and potentially more pressure from Riddle to stop them from coming in and getting some farm here. You can see Viking making his path down towards the bot side as well now.
It does get the Herald, but it costs him both blue buff and Gromp. It's going to leave Venza and FGG zoned away from a fair amount of the wave. At least it's a cannon minion, so that will soak up some of those turret shots and allow them to pick up some of those minions that they might otherwise have lost on a non-cannon wave. And they're left with that still that 1,000 gold to their name as Aleph looked for an opportunistic Gnar into the wall. Is now back into Mini. And still pretty happy trading in this one.
And honestly, as a Gnar, your ultimate is so low cooldown. Yes, it feels bad missing it, but every time you have the Gnar bar, you might as well go for it.
Right.
And when you get 3 points in it, the cooldown as well is 30 seconds. Like, it just gets lower and lower every time. So you have a lot of room to work around with here. You can already see a quarter finished. So next time he gets Mecha Gnar, it's going to almost be up again.
Yeah, I think that's probably a deliberate design choice, right, for that Gnar, in the sense that Viking coming up here will have that conversation about design choice on Gnar another time, because Kex is going to have to try and make his way out of here. It's a decent flash, but an onslaught of shadows comes through and ensures the Graves dies for a second time this
Yeah, and just have a look at the vision control currently from Dusty on the top side. Ping on complete domination with the red wards. They have all the intel to go for. Aurelia is spotted in the mid lane. They saw Alistar move up towards the mid lane as well. MC is not currently spotted, and therefore they know they can just commit to these heavy dives. So Dusty, they're just coming in with a better preparation for these ganks.
They really, really are. It's what we were a little bit afraid of. It's going to be a bit risky if this keeps going. Of course, MC has taken this opportunity to get a lot of additional farm. He got a lot of that blue side quadrant, got to full clear again. There are still camps up for Viking, who's lost some of that efficiency, but it's come at the cost of getting good gank, getting the Herald, and Nuke's now in trouble as well.
Yeah, watch out. There's TP priority for Aleph as well, so I think Nukes will just die here.
Surely does. There's a Ferromancy crash down. There is an Event Horizon flash forward from Backlund, who's a little bit afraid, and he will eventually get forced down by a Primordial Burst, but it took a little bit more there to secure the kill than I think they would have liked.
Yeah, so the idea for Nukes was that he just saw the jungler of Dusty up at the top side, so he thinks to himself, okay, my time to finally get some vision on the enemy instead. But the move is so fast from Backlund, and the recall has already come through from Viking that has a Herald in the inventory, so the reset timer is way faster than Nukes is anticipating. On top of that, Kex just TP'd back to top lane because he died, so even if a fight were to break out here from the side of Riddle, they would just lose it because the TP could come in from the side of Aleph. It's bugged in the replay, by the way. The TP was up when this play happened.
There we go. That is good to note. A little bit of a bug there. And you can see it on your top right there. It is in fact off cooldown and definitely wasn't half on.
I was just going to say, I'm not just
not blind. No, I saw it too.
Here.
I saw it too. I will back him up. Yeah, Guldborg does actually know what he's talking about, whereas I may have admitted otherwise.
No, stop that. No, you know what? I'm sitting in the green room so often, and I have to listen to Sam and Chimera be so self-deprecating, so self-critical. You know, it's all right to give yourself a pat on the back every now and then.
The problem is, if I do it too much, I let go. I become too powerful to contain. As what could also be slightly too powerful to contain is that Moonlight Vigil. Does a lot of damage to Venza, but MC not quite managed to find the angle yet. Does have the flash, but will get a track repelled in place there for the stun. Does mean that Herald doesn't finish the charge, though.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing. I feel like they still have more time to roll around for priority here from the side of Dusty, especially because we just saw how well they were team fighting around him. Aleph on the top side with a flash advantage.
It is with the flash advantage. It's the collateral damage that is the collateral in that trade, and he gets out, does Kex, but has to back again. There is no teleport. Aleph will have the Mega Gnar to top of his health bar, and that means probably another plate or two going the way of this top laner of Dusty.
Oh yeah, Kex starting up the Grom, getting the fleet footwork procced as well, but I mean, Aleph, one jump, one flash. You can still get on top of Kex here.
Yeah, there's no collateral damage, there's no flash. It's not that many ways out as it stands. There's the second plate, as we talked about, and Aleph feeling very happy with that series of trades.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, it's just going to take so long before the side lane starts being controlled again by the Graves. It's one of these explosive matchups where if the Graves gets ahead in the early game, well, he'll take over that top side of the map. But if the Gnar suddenly takes it, it is ranged into range. You start dictating the waves. You start poking him down with that Q, and all of a sudden, you've just lost control of the top side. So there was a lot of pressure in the early game once again from Riddle. I want to reiterate that this is a team that if they fall behind, they will get out-team fought by the composition of Dusty. So when Kex went up there in the top lane and dropped that ball, that actually has huge implications for this game of Riddle.
And Riddle is a team that while they are tied with Veneer, with Dusty, for the fourth place, they are 7 and 6 altogether. 3 game clears of the teams below them, but looking now towards playoffs, remember, after today, there are 2 more weeks of games left. We've got this position where Riddle, probably, honestly, as we've been discussing, the most inconsistent of those teams at that score point. And it's games like this, plays like this, that have been a little bit up and down for this team that make us a bit nervous as we go in towards the end of the split.
And before I add on that conversation, I'm just going to hold here, see if Nukes find a pickup. because blue buff has spawned and they're still aggressive towards this bot side of the map. They're still aggressive to try and get resources on MC. So far, it's just a war of attrition of this vision currently, though.
Over comes Backlund, so this would be everybody on the bot side of the map available. Just a little bit of control being fought over. 2 wards into that bush just below the blue buff and the Gromp, and nothing comes off of that little rotation, that little near skirmish.
No, but it's the fact that they have priority, so they are moving it around, which is still great to see. And yes, I want to take it back to what you just talked about as well, Sam, because even in interviews with Nukes recently in their latest victory, they were talking about how they are not really the team they would have wanted to be in the offseason, and there are still a big way for them to even reach European Masters just because of the skill discrepancy there is between JDXL and X7, but we're going to talk about that later. Viking in the top side.
X is going to have to work his way out as he's being shoved away. He's got a collateral damage, but I don't think he has enough space to move. Wait and look at your mini-map, though. Slow Q and Nukes are around, but they just can't get there in time, and Viking gets that kill. And Kex, this is a problem with Riddle. We have one player who seems to be always misplaying at some point, and it's such a frustration.
Oh yeah, it looked frustrating as well. Collateral damage in the wrong way, only to put them into closer grounds of the Hecarim and the Na once again. And it's the volatility of topside as well. For mid laners quite often, when they are being frozen upon by the enemy mid laner, they can cry for help for the jungler or just even the support to come up to try and break the freeze. But as a top laner, if you're suddenly put in a position where wave states have pushed you in a way where you can no longer farm efficiently, it takes a lot of the time and resources of the team if you suddenly need to get bailed out, because it's so far up to the top side. The rest of the map moving with the mid laner gets to create so many more plays then, and just going on the 1v1 here with the Hullbreaker, Aleph has now taken complete control of it, netting the first turret of the game for himself, and remember, not even with Herald implemented.
And when you're kind of looking at a position where you're trying to build towards similar or the same items, the fact you kind of down that pressure point, down that experience point, you know, there is that level difference right now for Aleph. It is a difficult position to be in for this Graves, who has not been able to get the consistent priority in lane even after it was a really good level 1. It's just not worked out.
And this is a very pivotal fight, because this is going to be the turnaround fight for Dusty. In the ideal scenario, this is the fight where Riddle maintain a lead, but they cannot do it. They're getting engaged on.
Look at the teleport behind. Fatachan needs to be afraid. That's Aleph coming in, but it's not a Mega Gnar, and that means Viking in a dangerous position. But the baby cage is good. It prevents Slow Q from getting a bit further in. In goes MC, gets a massive chunk onto Backlund, and look at Kex running down the rest. It's a triple onto Fatachan, who survived everything else, and somehow, some way, despite the teleport, Dusty fall down. It's a 3 for 2. And Riddle will have position on this Drake. Aleph has Mega though, but I don't think a Rel plus a Mega Gnar are the players you need alive to contest for this.
No, and that was what I was just going off it. Well, this had to be the fight where Riddle at least threats the soul point, where they threat a team fight to finally make something work here. And all in all, I think Viking pulls the trigger way too early. You can get 2 members caught here, but the Veigar is currently not in a position to get the cage down immediately. Yes, you CC chain the Alistar, but he's currently got the extra bonus resistances from the ultimate. And as you all about, Slow Q in the back with that ultimate, with that damage, just really sets up a nice cleanup for the side of Venser, or Vatican rather.
Never mind, team fighting. We'll go back to what's been working this game, punishing Kex in a side lane.
Oh,
you
no.
might be Graves, you might shove up minions real fast, but you also die real fast. He is dead for the 4th time this game.
Kex definitely very popular today from the Dusty camp, and Aleph finally putting in position as well where he gets to shine a little bit. We're so used to seeing Aleph as the weak side either on the Grackers or on other tanks as well. But this time around on the Gnar, it's quite fed all of a sudden, making his way towards even more kills. Got 300 goals shot down already, and pushing down the bottom side at the moment.
You want to call this out though. Slow Q on this Aurelia, got the Blade of the Ruin King, got to level 12, so that second rank of the Vanguard's Edge is very much available in that last fight, the 3-man Vanguard's Edge.
But how many times can you repeat that team fight rather?
Wow.
Because it's very difficult normally for the composition of Riddle to get into your backline. It should actually be a little bit illegal for the backline to be wide open for the Aurelia. That's why we talk about the team composition being so nice from the side of Dusty, because if you have vision tracking of the members who want to dive into you. I mean, one baby cage or a Nah, even as a disengager, will completely destroy you. So for the side of Riddle, they need to do what they've been doing so far, and that's staying aggressive for the vision control. Because if you create the pockets of fog of war, like Slowq just finding the back entrance, as we saw in the earlier team fight, that's how you make your way into this game. That's the small windows we talked about the composition have, because there are just bigger windows on the side of Dusty's comp.
Yes, there are. What I will say, though, is, of course, that while Aleph has been running over this side lane right now, and he's got the whole break, and certainly very scary, this Aurelia, probably once she picks up another item or so, is going to be pretty difficult, actually, for Nah to deal with in a side lane, potentially. That might be another option for you as this game gets a little later, especially considering you have the soul point. You don't necessarily have to fight for these dragons. You can play towards the side lanes with the dragon stacking advantage you have, and I know we were talking about this kind of off-screen before we came over to the Cassidus, that there is a point later on in this game where Slowq into Aleph on this Nah could get a bit unmanageable.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, Aurelia into Nah is always a great counter that's favoring the Aurelia in that matchup. The problem is so far that it is difficult to see games be decided by side lane pressure. Like, we are not in a meta any longer. I think every time I speak with Nightmare about it, he goes like, last time this happened was in Season 8. But he's right.
Yes, he is.
In terms of when that was really happened. Like, now, side lane pressure is great in terms of taking care of the inner turrets, in terms of building up some exponential gold. But at some point, it'll have to come around for a team fight. Even for Riddle, they want to use that pressure to get that sold for themselves, because that needs to be the advantage that they're getting in this game to start winning out on these team fights, because we talked about it, stylistically, they should not win. But if you are ahead, you can obviously bend those rules a little bit.
And we've got to start keeping our eyes on what summoners, what items will be available in a minute and a half, because it will be the soul fight. And while Riddle have managed to stack their way to 3 dragons, as we've said, they don't have the easiest time team fighting if Dusty is set up, and if Riddle lose control of the vision. We'll keep harping on about it because it's so damn important. Can Aurelia do something like maybe complete a more of my Mortius? Can we get a second item onto MC, who has just done that and now has the Zhonyas and an active stasis? That's the word I'm looking for. Again, because of course the stopwatch was broken in the last fight. Big pickups coming through there.
And here we go. So, setup so far will be Slowq pushing in the top side of the map. A wave has been responded to by Backlund. Backlund, though, have TP, so he can always join the fight. Now the priority, or the fight rather, is going to be against the mid lane, where you're going to see who can you push back, who can get the first move. And now that the top side wave has just been pushed out, Backlund is going to go in with his TP to join the fight around the vision here.
Straight front to back right now. Vision control for Dusty, and I think Riddle have potentially wisely here said, we want mid lane control, we've already got the outer tower there, and maybe they don't even have to fight for this. They can wait for another item. Aurelia kind of stuck on 2 half items there, maybe not at the point they want for this, considering how pivotal Slowq might be. Of course, Farachan at the 2 items himself, 3-0-0 all off the last fight. Maybe they feel like they can do this anyway.
FGG stepping up though, but they can just start up the Drake. It's spawning now in 2 seconds. Okay, baby cage down, that's a window. That is a cooldown you can play for wards for Riddle now.
Oh, MC walks onto the flame top. It's Venza who catches him out some way. The rest of the fight though is continuing. It's a turnaround from FGG though. A magnet storm to end them all. 1 for 1, make that 2 for 1 though in trade back. As of course, Slowq and Farachan get firing until the damage from Venza trades it back again. AD carry versus AD carry, 3v3. And now we're left with neither jungler alive and a dragon that's still yet to be claimed. Another good baby cage though puts Kex down to next to nothing HP. A flash in from Nukes makes Venza's life hell. It's Farachan on the backside with an onslaught that is finally traded out, and both AD carries die. It's Nukes and Kex that are still there but on such little HP. Backlund flashing forward for a primordial burst. Sorry, not a primordial burst, a dark matter that doesn't quite pay off. And he'll have to back away. It's Dusty that chase out the members of Riddle and will stop Soul going over. But again, a tense fight.
Yeah, the fight did not start out in favor from the side of Dusty. I gotta say, setup was a little bit worrying with the way they were positioning their abilities. Now Kex back, did TP in. Slowq is TPing on the bottom, but I think those TPs will just be wasted. And the resets will come through from the side of Dusty. And I'm looking forward to seeing that replay, because a little bit of a disjointed communication, it seems like, coming out from Dusty, but they come out on top of that skirmish right away.
And honestly, I thought when MC failed on the flank and got deleted by Venza. I thought this will be it. This is the win. But on the other side, it's still Fatachan, it's still Slowq, who got to play their game, weren't forced into some awkward positionings, as Viking might be in a dire strait, does get a decent onslaught of Shadows and makes that a kill in a 1v2 on the tower. Now Kex needs to back away. Aleph is here, though Riddles, MC and Nukes are around Viking. Still very low, Aura Dread is down. Hex Flash gonna come through shortly, there it is, but Nukes needs to find his way on the Viking. He's got the unbreakable will to make sure he gets tank tower for forever. Here comes Fatachan around the side, 2v4, a big move fall, but it's a stopwatch to invulnerable it is, as the Magnet Storm pins them all in place. They're gonna try and turn it around. FGG goes down as well. The Super Mega Death Rocket from downtown, making this one a complete mess. It's a debacle, but it's an excruciating tower dive. The Dusty are the ones that I think just about come on top of. 3 for 4, just about in favor for Dusty.
Never have I seen a team get that hungry for a fight around an outer turret. 24 minutes into the game. They were positioning around that turret like that was the Baron buff they were fighting for. And let's have a look at the replay once again, because they just get desperate for a dive here on Viking. And granted, if you can kill the jungler here, you can move the pressure up towards the top side of the map around that Baron. But with then Aleph joining the fight, they have to disengage it, but the full vision has not come out around this turret, because why in the world would it? So obviously Nukes and MC has made their way down here and just becomes an extended team fight that is favoring the likes of Riddle while Nukes had that ultimate. But staying around here now with the Narbok going up becomes difficult. Aleph unfortunately misses the stun on the W afterwards, doesn't stop Kex from going down of the rocket coming up from uptown. And then, when Backlund finally joins the fight, well, we get the kills coming through. All in all, it seemed like a little bit of a net positive for Riddle, if I'm not wrong, and they do get their turret. But once again, a lot of aggression coming out from an outer turret, and I think it is a testimony to how aggressive Riddle want to get as well before Dusty starts fulfilling their third items on their champions.
So it was 3 kills per turret for Riddle, 4 kills for Dusty, so probably somewhat even, but the additional map control just about favors Riddle. But it was a mess, I think it's fair to say. I'll call out that was a great Magnet Storm. That was so smooth from FGG. That guy is very good on the champion. But we're left with a game state that is not even 1,000 gold apart. It's 400 in the lead for Dusty. Still soul point for Riddle to work with. Remember that they've got 3 more chances to claim that soul as these dragons spawn. They can look to play around this. 2 items are now on Slowq. It's 3 on MC, who did take the early farming approach and is out very strong on this Diana. 3 items completed for Aphelios. Maybe their composition doesn't have the straight up advantage of 5 type, but they've got the items to do the damage now.
They definitely do, and especially on the scary guys as well. I just wonder if we can look at the AP on the Veigar as well at this point in the game, because he's sitting at 699.
Yep.
Rabadon's Death Cup as well, and just finished up the Anathema's Chains as well, which is actually quite an aggressive fire on the side of Veigar as well that allows you to play more front.
Attached it to? Do we know? I'm looking for the effects, but I can't see it quite now. I wonder whether I think it's Fatachan. I think, but I'm not sure. I say that with not a huge amount of certainty.
That's great.
Sorry, I know. I put a statement and then rescinded it slightly by. Sorry about that.
Could be on the Diana as well, because she's going to be the one diving into the front line where you can play around the range as well from the Veigar cage. But there's loads of possibilities. Hexgate's coming through. Pinks are coming through as well. But it's Dusty and FGG quite alone, actually, leading the charge by getting some aggressive vision right now. He knows he can jump over the wall, so he feels free to just move up here. And I think they did spot Slowq on the top side ward as well around the blue buff.
Big shout out to production there as well, who did check it for us. It's Diana. You were right. That has been a task, of course. MC will be the point of the sphere. Spear, not sphere. Though I grant you, maybe moon references. She's got a crescent weapon, so that's kind of vaguely spherical.
Oh, yeah?
I'll take that as a pun, even if it was unintended. 14 seconds, though, until this Drake. Riddle are the ones that currently have position. Aside from that teleport behind. Where is Aleph, though? He's not got a Mega Narbar to work with. That's problematic. And look at that vision. Look at where it's going to go around. That's a big chunk, though, onto Nukes. Takes a lot of damage. Can they make their way through? As FGG gets into the backside, leads up for the onslaught of Shadow. Slowq starting to dance through the background of this fight, but Venza stays alive. The leader in AD carry, Death will not fall. He'll prove that he's still on an up and up. His games over the last few weeks have been phenomenal, and Dusty finally find a clean team fight. They will secure themselves another dragon. They will get to move over to the Baron, and finally this game feels like it's breaking open, and it's in Dusty's favor.
Beautiful from FGG, layered up by the other horse of Viking there. And once again, it goes back to the composition. If you're not coming in from vision pockets of Riddle, if they know well where you are, and they just take the head-on-head team fight, you will lose out on it. With the CC chain that was beautifully placed by FGG, and then later the kiting back of Slowq by the best effort, who tried to pick up kills in the backline, but did not have the damage to facilitate it. Baron will go over to the side of Dusty. The team fight will go over to the side of Dusty, and the two Drakes now over to the side of Dusty. And just have a look at FGG, because it is beautiful. They flash into the moon, the Magnet Storm immediately for the crash down, opening up with Viking as well. Cage stunning up the Alistar, stunning up Diana, and that's that slow range we talk about. It becomes so difficult for the rest of them to join the attack on the backline. And then Aleph with the Narbor able to just get the stun onto Kegs, making sure they get this team fight and the Drake and the Baron, and you know how the story goes.
I'm becoming increasingly convinced that FGG just stands for Ferromancy God Gamer. Like, he just plays the rails so well.
Fair enough, fair enough. I appreciate that.
There's a few other acronyms
Not
you could
too
probably
bad,
go for.
not too bad.
It's not appropriate for broadcast.
I was going to say, I was expecting
I
one.
know, I wasn't going to quite do that one.
You would have put one up. You know, it's
Look,
fine
only
so
Daniel
far.
Drake is allowed to do.
Ferromancy is a good one to go for. If you haven't played Rel, that is, I guess it's a class or
It's
something like that.
It's Ferromancy Crashdown and Ferromancy Mount Up are actually the
Yeah, but
full type.
I think it's called Ferromancy Magic. It's kind of the thing, the horse itself.
It's Metalmancy.
There you
Yeah,
go.
so Ferro is for metal. There you go.
Well, now with Baron buff in hand, they're opening up on 2 lanes. They don't have to open up on 3 when they have the Baron buff. It's just easier to play around like this. Aleph's going to be moving on the top side. He's got the Hull Breaker. Leave that poor boy alone. Let him take care of the turrets while in the mid lane itself. No stack minion wave, so Dusty still going to take some time before they can move that pressure around.
And that's been a little bit of something that maybe has haunted them a bit. Some of the setups, some of the coordinated split map plays, maybe not as synchronized as we might like it. It does mean that Riddle have a little bit more space and freedom to counter some of this Baron push, maybe mute it a little bit.
Yes, Keck side lane pressure, forcing a recall back from Backlund. Does have that teleport, obviously, but once again, it's these things, right? You want more onslaught of your Baron buff. You want to be able to punish this a little bit harder. You got the top turret, that's great, 600 gold on Aleph, but you want to be able to move the Aleph pressure into the mid lane immediately after as well. The setup was just not there for it just yet.
Yeah, and honestly, when you've got a Veigar and a Jinx, you should be able to siege pretty well with that. You throw down the cage and Jinx gets to delete the tower.
No.
Wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, we still need to be quiet.
No.
Careful.
Oh.
Riddle cannot step all this far up, because while it's great for you to push Dusty as far back as you can to get more time to work with, especially when you have Baron up 1 minions pushing into you.
Okay, so he's got to teleport.
He's on
out.
vision, though.
Is he going to get the cage to stop him? And he is stunned in place. The event horizon is there, and he will get sucked into the void. Charge goes Viking, and it's been like Lindisfarne all game. Comes rampaging in to this side lane, this undefended point of the map, and just ransacks him for all the gold he's worth.
And this is great now, because now you have a mid lane wave you can push in here. You can move that pressure down towards the bot side, with now Backlund coming in with a minion wave, and this is what we want to see. So should be able to pick up the first one, then afterwards you can continue on either pushing this minion wave, then move down towards bot side, where Backlund will now be arriving with his cavalry of minions on the inner turret.
It's not just the minions of the cavalry. You've got yourself a very scary Hecarim, and we've already sung the praises of FGG's Rel many a time, and I'm sure we will do more yet. Can see just completed a Zhonya's as well on the Rel to add a little bit more of that temporary immunity, that temporary tankiness, where you throw down your ultimate and you just get to press your stopwatch and you're feeling pretty happy about yourself.
Oh yeah, solidness from Dusty showing up. We always talk about how this roster is about Venza. This time around, it's Aleph 6-2 on the Gnar. Backlund 6-1 on the Veigar. Granted, though, his pick works phenomenally into the composition of Riddle. And now, short of 1 minute before the third Hex Drake spawns for the side of Dusty, that'll be 18% extra ability haste and attack speed going over to the side of Dusty if they can pick it up. The base stats on this Drake, when you start stacking it, is absolutely insane.
And especially when you're on someone like a Jinx who's at 4 items, the attack speed right now is obscene. So quick with the additional Drakes, as you were mentioning. It's Riddle, though, that have actually managed to get here nice and early. They're pulling off an old school Fnatic Death Brush, but that one ward just at the bottom edge of your screen will give them away. There's a teleport for Backland available, but I don't think he'll want to come in as a flanking option just yet.
And remember, from the side of Riddle, it's that backline accent. If you don't come in through Pocket Visions, you're just going to be layered up in CC once again for a team fight. Aleph is the one pincering them right now. Backlund, Venser in a comfortable position.
And then Aleph is a long way off Mega Nara's yet. That's a flash away from Venser, and FGG is being blocked off by Slowq. It'll be Nukes that's taken up by the Event Horizon, but the Unbreakable Will comes through and will keep him alive. That's a big ticket ultimate down for the Alistar. Aleph now with the Mega Gnar, who started his own people off as Slowq is left isolated. He was trying to zone and is instead left to the Wolves.
And once again, it's like when you have this composition, you have to try and come from a flank position. You cannot just walk into them face first, because you'll lose. And it's not necessarily Riddle not playing out their composition, it is just harder to execute. Dusty just have a composition that works better into what Riddle got. It's literally rock, paper, scissors, and unfortunately, it's the rock into paper for Riddle.
It really feels like it for now. And yes, Fat Chan has got 4 items. This Aphelios, given space, can absolutely win a team fight for you. It's doable. It's just hard. And you've gone for that 3-dragon advantage to now being even in dragons. Both teams at Soul Point. Riddle need to win the next fight. Need to, or it's lights out and the lights are already looking mighty dim.
Oh, they for sure are, and that's not the only thing looking dim here. You take a look at the vision control currently on the map, and Dusty are just in control of the Baron as of right now. They're champions. 4 items Jinx, threat through a Baron as well, and now with mid lane priority pushed in, top side pushed in as well, Dusty are in control of the Fog of War, and they can look for plays as well now.
Baron is back alive, and it's Riddle who are trying to control at least an avenue to get towards the Baron pit, but Dusty comes straight back over, clear things out as Viking might be caught out, but it's only 2 members. I just don't think they've got the damage. Here comes Fatachan. What can he do? But he's rooted. Bring it fruitful. It's a backline axis for MC though. Rename him. That's beautiful stuff from Fatachan to follow it up. Riddle gonna try and back out though as Backland does delete at least 2 in trade. Mid jungle down for the bot lane of Dusty. But Riddle hold on. They don't quite manage to secure the team fight when that looked inches away from being theirs.
MC found the window and it was wide open. You can see while Nukes and Kegs are trying to catch off guard Viking, the rest of them tries to pincer around, trying to blow down the Alistar. But MC, Hectech Gunblade, not Gunblade, Hectech Rocket Bell forward. Flashes forward as well just to get into that backline. Slowq just not in a position to follow through immediately. Had he been, that could have been a completely different team fight. But it's that small and hard execution we're talking about there from the side of Riddle that can net them a victory, but they need to be able to replicate this again. And that's a small probability.
And you can see the damage that MC is doing right now. He's got what it takes. Literally, if Fatachan managed to get a Moonlight Vigil there, I think you get another. You can start maybe winning that fight. But it's so difficult, and if you don't execute perfectly, you see what happened when Backland throws down an Event Horizon, when FGG gets to pull off the easiest Magna Storm of his life because you're all grouped up kindly for him. And that has proven problematic time and time again. We've seen one good team fight, it feels like, from Riddle, and the rest of them have been these either wiped for Dusty or close affairs where they can't convert what they start.
Oh yeah, for sure. And now one thing that is bothering Dusty a little bit is that they can't just put Gnar in the bot side lane and have him TP in, because you mentioned it earlier as well. Slowq quite happy going up against the side lane against the Gnar, even with Gnar being on the 4-5 items now, full build actually for Aleph. That is just the nature of Aurelia with the Blade of the Ruined King as well.
Yeah, I mean, Gnar has got the Death Dance, has got the Chainsword, so has some tools, but the moment Aurelia gets on you, it's going to be very difficult to disengage as that got a little bit close. Baron's still available, but it's Riddle with a shove in mid that might be trying to call the bluff a little here. Viking and the rest of Dusty might be starting up Baron though, and I think we're looking at a cataclysmic fight on the horizon, Goldborg.
Yeah, we definitely are. And once again, you need to have some sort of backline access. But MC, he doesn't have that flash. It becomes more difficult for him now. And look at FGG's position.
Does it again! The Magnet Storms are just beautiful! It's Vatichan and Nukes that are left to the Wolves themselves. 4 dead, make it Kex the last man alive, and he will not be left so for long. Dance straight through the backlines, then dance on their graves. They are left ashes to ashes. Dusty put Riddle to dust, and they're going to win this game and move up the standings.
Yeah, beautiful stop once again coming through from FGG and just starting up that Baron. Put Riddle in a really unfavorable position where they just had to walk through you. And once they did, once they had that entrance to the river, FGG, he was ready, and he was ready to punish. That is the game, should be going over to the start of Dusty, pulling ahead in the chase for playoffs.
Read my lips, listen to my words. Do not give FGG Rel. He's too damn good at it, and it's a fantastic game from Dusty, despite some mid-game attempts from Riddle.
Oh, definitely. But once again, like, I think we can give Riddle credit with the draft they had, because they did find a lot of windows where it came through MC on the Diana, even slow Q as well in one of these team fights. But it's a very hard to execute composition.
Yeah.
And while I respect them going through it with trying to go forward with their mechanical prowess, having that Vega as the 5th pick with Backlund just getting the Anathemas chains as well, always being a thorn in your side, it just became so difficult for Riddle to play. And Dusty, they pull ahead, they had a great composition, and they played it out to not perfection, there's still room for improvement, but they played it out how we expected them to.
They absolutely do, and they break the tie for 4th, and they secure sole 4th, at least for now. We've got to cut to a break, and when we come back, Archron will take us through a few interviews, so don't you go anywhere. See you in a few.
Welcome back to the NLC. After Dusty taking down Riddle for the second time, this split is going to be a good question for Viking when we jump into the interview. Oh, he's already there. I don't. It's too soon, Viking. But welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you.
We meet again.
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
And
really
you?
important for you guys because you took Riddle for the second time, which means you guys are almost locked in into the playoffs. Not yet, but getting really close. How do you feel?
I mean, I want higher than playoffs, so it doesn't feel much. I'm not satisfied with only playoffs. So, I mean, I am just happy that it's going good in general. We have things to improve on, and yeah, it's just that doesn't feel like too much.
Okay, interesting. I want to jump back into the Champion Select to talk about FGG Rel that is being popping off so far. Do you think the Rel of FGG is ban worthy, or is just like one of the flavors that FGG can bring into the matchup?
I think he's just good. He's good on several things, and don't think that I would never ban it. Like people just need to play better. It's as simple as that now. Like our bot lane has just been playing better than most bot lanes recently, and it's as simple as that. They had a bad start, and I think that any matchup that they're confident on, like they will win it.
I think we have something to show you. Let me see, because I just got info of that. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. So this is the matches that you guys are still going to play. I think these are the matches that you guys are going to play. Yeah, the last wins you won versus Astralis, and now versus Riddle. That is a specific image just for you, by the way. We prepared that just for you. And I want to go into your champion pool because you used to play those early champions, Rek'Sai and all that, but now you're deviating for the Ekrim. Is this a way of you saying to everybody that you feel comfortable with your team and you can finally play something aside from only early game because you know the team is going to be there and you feel more comfortable?
I mean, I do think that I haven't been able. I mean, there's like champions I play, but I'm not. I just think that it's better if I play certain champions. But I think that now, like before, I felt like this honestly, but now I feel like way more comfortable to like pull out way more. But we also had a different read on a meta before, and Hecarim I've always been good on. If you watch me in Bench League 2 years ago, like actually did one good split when we got tied second place in LFL 2020. And I played a lot of Hecarim, and people in France know me for my Hecarim more than other champions. But yeah.
It's showing off, let's be honest. Also, I love the way that you guys are doing the Dusty Special. I don't know if you know that, but we have something called the Dusty Special, where every single game you go for the adults at 8 minutes, you get FGG rotating to the top side. Is this something that you guys plan or just happens because it happens?
I mean, I think that every team should want to get the Herald if it's possible, but you should not fuck your game for it, which many do. And I mean, our bot lane has become better on it, and the team in general. And it's just that some people just don't know how to get the Herald, how to slow push, like when it's good, and mistime it. Jungle, like sometimes the jungler fucks up, right, and doesn't start it on a certain time and good time. So it's like a lot of like knowing the limits, you know.
You're talking about knowing the limits. This is the last question that I have for you. It's about the Dragons, specifically about this game. I was looking into the Dragons, and it was Riddle taking the first two. I think you allowed them to take the Dragon, and then you went for the later Dragons on the game. And this is something that I want to ask you, because most people on the chat will probably not realize that, but you as a jungler didn't fight for that. Why is that, and what is the advantage of that?
I mean, obviously, like at first Dragon, we can't contest it because we have Veigar mid lane, and like second of all, the second one, like I don't remember exactly, but like we just know at third Dragon or fourth we will be stronger, like no matter what. Like only if we like play bad and they catch us a lot, we will be stronger with items and stuff. So why would you risk the biscuit to go for the second one or something like this? Like why? Like like if they play really good, I don't think they played like that well today. And what's called, if they play really good and we fight second Drake, like we probably lose, you know. And I mean, we didn't play like that well, like. But yeah.
That is such a good insight about the reason why you let the Dragons go. Thank you so much for another interview. You guys are almost locked in, so good luck on the next week, Viking.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a nice night.
You too, man. There we go, Viking giving that information. It's really important when you see a player in-game allowing the other team to take some objectives, not fighting over them. Why is that? Getting the reasoning. You don't need, even on solo queues, you don't need to win every single dragon. You don't need to go for every single plate on the turret. Like, focus more on the wave management and all that. So it's really important to get the insight of pro players on the NLC. So this is why Dusty are so high up on the standings. Everyone on the team is showing up. Viking is allowed to actually bring specific picks and not going for the early game, going for the hacker and feeling a little bit more comfortable. But now I want to know on the Riddle side what happened. Were they comfortable with the champion select? And this is why we have on the interview Nukes with us. Hello, Nukes.
Hello.
Welcome back. I know it's not the perfect time to talk, obviously, but welcome back. Riddle losing this game is kind of a big deal for you guys, no, in terms of position on the standings?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure how the standings are, but I heard someone from my team say that if we win, we're in playoffs for sure. So we have to win some more now. I'm not sure how many games, but we need to win.
But I would actually have to make the math. I think it's like 2, but I have to make sure of that. I have to be sure of that because before talking about that. But you guys are still close. You're one of the teams that are really on the top of the standings. Even if you only get like the last place for the playoffs, it's more than enough for you guys. You will feel comfortable, no?
Yeah, I mean, probably gonna have to play against third place then, but yeah, I mean, playoffs is playoffs. Like, first we want to make playoffs. And I guess it doesn't really matter who we play because eventually if we win some games, we're gonna play against the best team. So we need to make playoffs first.
Okay, another question that I have for you guys is, I was watching the Champion Select, and on Dusty's side, they had a tremendous amount of crowd control. It is really hard to actually play versus a team like that. How can you actually build and prepare yourself for that sort of composition?
I think, actually, I'm not sure if their comp was just better or not. Like some of my teammates disagree if theirs was better. I think theirs is just better. Especially in terms of scaling, because I mean we played early game pretty bad. Like we didn't play around mid. Our top lane died a bunch of times, but I mean playing against Veigar Rel with like we had 5 short range champions. Like everyone is short range. Like Veigar is perfect into that. Rel is really good. Like I think at some point it's just really hard for us. Like we can win for sure, but it's just much easier for them.
Exactly, it's about executions and team compositions and how easy it is to execute your composition. And I've been seeing this on the Riddle side, that it's not as easy to pull off the teams that you guys are drafting in as I've seen before. And this is why you guys are at the top, like close to the top of the standings, but are struggling a little bit now. Do you think the Champion Select is not going as smoothly as you think? Or the team is in disagreement with what you guys want to pick? Or is this just a win passing by?
I think like the champion we played, there are strengths, and I mean maybe there's actually different stuff we can pick, but for sure like I think if we went like longer range, it's not really our style, but better. So I'm not even sure if we should like counter pick them in champ select.
So it's more about watching the VOD now and realize what happened and work from there on. Is there any team that you have to fight from now on that you're really excited to play against, or a little bit fear, with a little bit fear to face it?
Wait, who are we playing last week? Because it was top 1 or top 2 team, I don't remember.
I think it's
like,
top 2 at the last week. I don't have it by memory.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like, I mean, in terms of scared, like, I think when we played them, like we got completely stomped, and I felt like panicking atmosphere around my team. So I hope we don't have that anymore.
Okay, it's about confidence now, man. You guys are so close to the playoffs, so good luck with that. Nukes, thank you so much for another interview. It's always a pleasure to have you with me.
Thank you.
See ya. Here we go. It's Dusty taking another victory versus Riddle. Riddle have to fight it on to actually get it onto the playoffs. But talking about that, next game is going to be Bifrost versus Astralis. Astralis are not allowed to lose any more games. They have to go hard on it if they want to reach playoffs. So stick around and I'll see you soon.